have you ever just found yourself kind of saying, if only I had a stable job, then I would be happy. Or if I just had more money, then everything would be easier and then I would be happy. Or if I was in a relationship, or if I was out of this relationship, if I had this girl, or if I had that guy, if I got success in this area of my life, in this area of my life, if only, that would be me, I would be sorted. But would you really? Hi, Inonge here. Welcome to Overflow Chat. If we're being honest, life often becomes an endless pursuit of what we think we need for fulfillment. But the fulfillment never actually comes, does it? And there is that sense of wanting more and more and more that I want to think about just briefly. So if you've ever noticed, and I find this about myself as well, we tend to live life in the future, like always looking forward to the next thing. It could be an occasion, a holiday, a competition of some kind if you're sporty, the next stage of life, the next big anniversary of some kind. And this kind of looking forward just means we long for more, we long for the next thing. And then once the next thing comes, we long for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then life just becomes this endless pursuit of getting to the next stage. You look forward to something, when it comes, you enjoy it, but actually you can't enjoy it for long because you can't quite hold on to it forever. It passes and then it's gone and it leaves you just longing for more and more. And how do we respond? I think usually by continuing to pursue. So we continue to pursue success. If one relationship fails, continue to pursue another relationship. Continue to pursue popularity, affirmation, hoping that we might just land on something that will be the jackpot, that will make us ultimately happy. And I want to draw attention to someone in the Bible who did get everything anyone could ever want. He was a great king who penned down all his thoughts, looking back on his life and everything that he had and everything that he achieved. And he did this in poetic form in a book of the Bible called Ecclesiastes. This guy, money or wealth, possessions, he had it all. Intelligence, he was described as the wisest king that ever lived. So people would travel miles and miles to seek his wisdom on issues. Women, he had them lining up, so relationship-wise sorted. Successful basically in every possible way that we might perceive success in. He threw the best parties, and if he lived in the 21st century, he would definitely have millions and millions of followers all wishing they had the kind of lifestyle that he had. So what does it say about all his achievement when he looks back at the end of his life? He basically says when he had looked at everything, he says, when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. That was his conclusion. He looks back, he looks at his possessions, he looks at his kingdom, women, everything, and he says, I've gained nothing under the sun. Do you know what he's saying when he uses that phrase? Basically, he has tried to find the meaning of life in wisdom, in pleasure, in work, in wealth, in status, in relationships, and he has come up empty. He looks back at his life and all that he has, and he asks the big questions. So what? What does this mean? What have I really accomplished? What have I really achieved by all this? And he says everything is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. He had it, but it came and then it went. It was vanity, it was empty. Now, he didn't say that he didn't have a great time. He says at the end of the day, it is meaningless if your only perspective is under the sun, here and now. That's the point. If your only perspective is just what you see and living in the now, then at the end of the day, it is meaningless. Vanity, it leads to nowhere. And the point here is that there are many good things, amazing things in this world to be enjoyed, but they are passing, they don't last, and they don't ultimately satisfy. Now, we all think that if only I could get this thing, I would be happy, I would be satisfied. And if we're not satisfied, we think, well, I just need to get more and more and more of that. So academic achievement, success, beauty, popularity, that guy, that girl relationship, the next stage of life, like I mentioned already, we just keep going. But here's a question then, because some of these things are good things, they are joyful and beautiful things. Why is it that they never quite satisfy us? And the Christian worldview points out that they do not satisfy because they cannot satisfy. And they cannot satisfy because they don't last. They do not satisfy because they cannot satisfy. And they cannot satisfy because they don't last. That's what the Christian worldview says in response to that. We can't find lasting happiness because we look to temporary things. We want a joy that will last, that is infinite, but we kind of scrape around in the mud, as it were, for it, instead of looking to the one who freely offers it. Now, notice what else he says about life. He looks at it and he says, well, everything under the sun is meaningless. But he also gets a different perspective on things that he talks about as well. And he says that he, that is God, has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. So God has made, it's just amazing, isn't it? Like I'm in the Glenford Braes here and it's absolutely stunning. I love just looking at the nature. Just the beauty of things, the beauty of music, the beauty of sport, the beauty of creation. God has made beautiful things for us to enjoy. Pleasure and happiness are real things. The world is full of joys, like simple joys even. Like that point in the song, like I love African music. There's points in the song where the beat drops and you're just like, ah, and it brings you so much joy. Like sporting moments that make us cry and joy, just pizza. God has made beautiful things for us to enjoy. And yet God has placed eternity in our hearts, meaning that we were made with eternal desires. We were made to marvel at eternal beauty. We were made to seek eternal joy. And we were made ultimately to find fulfillment in an eternal love. We were made for God. And then, so how does that look like then? Well, the writer of Ecclesiastes, and in fact, the whole of the Bible points ultimately to the one who brings all of these things, who brings true satisfaction, who brings life as it was meant to be, real life, full life, eternal life, not an impersonal force or philosophy of some kind, but it is founded in a person. The whole Bible points to this person, the person of Jesus. So I just want to actually invite you to see for yourself. To look to Jesus and see for yourself that true meaning is found in him. He offers himself to those pursuing fulfillment, pursuing satisfaction under the sun in places that they will never get it. And don't get me wrong, what I'm not saying is that Jesus will fix everything, your life will become easy and pain-free. But he will give you a life that counts after all is said and done. One that isn't tied to temporary fleeting pleasures, and one that lasts into eternity. And in an encounter in John's gospel, read that for yourself. I love this encounter. He encounters a woman who was looking for meaning and satisfaction in relationships with many men. He says to her, whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. The water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. He uses that kind of language to show her that she's looking for scrapes and life and meaning in the mud when he gives something that sustains. Water is something that sustains life. And he's saying that he satisfies the thirst, not physical thirst, but the thirst of our deepest longing. A longing you might not think you have, but is actually there. And it's like a spring, this life that Jesus brings. That means it keeps going, it's overflowing, it's abundant. And you never get thirsty again because one drink of it produces a well for an eternity of drinks, if you like. So Jesus is making a big claim about himself here, actually. He's saying real, meaningful life and our deepest longing to know God, that longing that he's placed in our hearts, is found in him. It's found in Jesus. That's a massive claim, isn't it? It's like, well, are you going to back that up, Jesus? Why should I believe you? Well, he does. And I would encourage you to just read a gospel account and see how he does that. It builds up to dealing with the one thing that definitely highlights that nothing lasts forever, and that's death. He deals with death through his resurrection. And so I think he's worth paying attention to, isn't he? Every moment of joy and pleasure we have now is just a shadow of the ultimate joy that lasts forever, that comes through the person of Jesus. And so consider Jesus and consider him for yourself. Thank you so much for watching that. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any thoughts or any questions, please drop them in the comment box. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Bye.